excuse me, yoo-hoo, I'm speaking. This is the 2025 Goffstown School Deliberative Session, known in the before times as the school meeting. I'm Jim Raymond, the school moderator. It's nice to see you all here. We have our usual lineup of exciting events, but before we start on those, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I hope people think about those words instead of just saying them, with liberty and justice for all. It has meaning. One of the purposes of the school meeting was to come together as a community, recognize the people that contribute to the community. So to start that, I would like to introduce the boards and the members of the Goffstown administration and faculty that make possible this meeting and our school district. I'm going to start with the school board members. If you would raise your hand when I call your name. For people in the audience, if you could stand up briefly, please. For the school board, oh, by the way, as you will know who have come to these meetings before, this is my annual chance to massacre names, and I will continue to take full advantage of that opportunity. I'm an equal opportunity name massacre, so if I do massacre your name, I'll deal with it. Thank you. Chair of the school board, Heather Trapaz. Vice Chair, Carolyn Racine. Retta Chaffee. Dan Cloutier. Jenny McKinnon. Shane Rosmus, I'm sorry. Close. Jared Talbot. Jack Carbonneau. And Lauren Dukas. With me and the school board clerk is Joanne Duffy and Lisa Winrow, the school district treasurer. She's here. Okay, for the SAU administrators, Brian Balke, Wendy Kohler, superintendent, Wendy Kohler, assistant superintendent, Scott Gross, business administrator, who I asked if he'd sing the national anthem for us, and he declined, so we didn't. Doug Totem, assistant business manager. Kate McGrath, human resources director. Jennifer Freitas, special ed director. Randy Loring, facilities director. Don Tabor, facilities supervisor. People are waving at her, but I don't know where it is. And Denise Moran, the executive assistant. Where did Denise go? She disappeared. She's the one who really sets up most of my script, and most of the facilities are the help for this, so thank her when you see her. For principals of the schools, Kathy Stoyle for Glen Lake School. For Bartlett Elementary School, Suzanne Hishka, I'm getting better at that. For Maple Ave, Bill Demers, and Lisa Johnson, assistant principal, over there. For Mountain View Middle School, Jessica Milliken. And for Goffstown High School, Frank McBride, up there, and Kim McCann, assistant principal. Thank you to all of the administrators and principals. For the budget committee, this is a joint effort of the school board and the budget committee to prepare a budget to present to the voters. So they work together on this, usually collaboratively, and it seems this year they did. So I'd like the budget committee members who are here to briefly stand. Joe Alexander, chair, way up and back. Samantha Kearns. Brian Mazer, if he's here. Laura Stevens. I don't know if he likes his first name or his nickname, but Israel Izzy Carey. Elizabeth Gubrel. If you haven't had a chance, subscribe to the New Hampshire Historical Society magazine. You'll read articles by Elizabeth in just about every article now, edition. Olivia Welch Erdahl. Frank Hobbs. Peter Gregorakis. No, I left out a syllable. Peter, help me, come on. Allison DeSaris. Richard Manzo. I saw him. Where is he? Oh, right there. Doug Pounds. For representatives from the other representatives to the Budget Committee, Peter Georgiantis from the Select Board, Jerry Talbot, the School Board, Jack Carbonell, the alternate, Steve Crane, I don't think he's here from the sewer, the Village Water Precinct, I'm sorry. So thank you for the Budget Committee. For town administrators, I don't know if Derek Horn is here. I didn't see him. Kathy Ball, the town clerk, is over here. She's, as you know, if you attend our, and I hope you do, the written ballot sessions or our voting, he is considered throughout the state one of the premier town clerks by the, and I know that because our firm represents 35 towns, and I hear about they're commenting with envy. They want us to share Kathy with them because she does it so well. For the Select Board, Peter Georgiantis, who we saw before, and I forget where he is. Kelly Boyer, is Kelly here? Collis Adams, I don't see him. Jim Craig, and Mark LeMay. I don't know if Mark's here. Okay. We're going to move right in. Thank you to all of you who help run and make this town a well-run town. Again, with the idea that this is a community event, one of the goals is to recognize other members of the school committee who make contributions to our schools and their success. And the school board, and for that reason, gives out several awards each year, which we'll now have Retta Chaffee give for the Cornerstone and Dreamkeepers Award.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. This is, as I say every year, this is probably my favorite part of our school board deliberative session. It's where we get to recognize people and organizations within the community that go above and beyond in supporting our schools and making them so great. So first, I'd like to thank everyone who submitted nominations. So we get a number of nominations, and then the school board selects the recipients. And this year, we actually have 3.
Each year, the Goffstown School Board presents the Cornerstone Award in recognition of achievements by staff and community members working with our schools who have shown outstanding support for student learning. This may include job performance, involvement in district activities, and volunteer work and service to the school district. The award recognizes individuals whose service has been truly outstanding to the overall educational climate of the school district and exhibits commitment, good human relations, skills, loyalty, dedication, and good organizational and work habits.
Thank you for that overview of the award. This year we have a very special winner. Our winner this year is none other than the amazingly talented, incredibly dedicated, caring, thoughtful, amazing educator who will soon be retiring, Mrs. Lisa Johnson, the assistant principal at Nickel Avenue. Congratulations, Mrs. Johnson. There's no one more deserving of this award than you. Thank you so much for everything, and we will miss you.
Mrs. Johnson has been the heart and soul of Maple Avenue's special education department for many years. She ensures that every child receives the support and resources they need to thrive. Her dedication has not only enriched the lives of countless students, but she has also created a nurturing and inclusive environment for everyone. Lisa Johnson is a true champion for children. I'm grateful to have worked with her and feel fortunate to have witnessed her remarkable talents. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for your exceptional service and for making a difference in the lives of so many.
Lisa has been more than just an amazing boss, but also a friend, a colleague, and a mentor. She has a passion and a dedication that prompts others to be and to do their best. I'm so excited for her as she enters a new chapter that is dedicated to her. She leaves some pretty big shoes to fill. She will be missed dearly. Lisa, if you ever want to come back in for morning coverage, come on in.
Working with Lisa for the past 20 years has been a privilege. She's been a great mentor and leader. We've been lucky to have her in her various roles to support both students and staff. Her priority has always been what is best for the students and how we can best meet their needs. We are so proud of her and we wish her the best. Congratulations, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Jen Gilliland, the Special Education Facilitator from New Boston Central School. Celebrating Lisa Johnson with pride and pleasure is a task that comes easily. I have been fortunate enough to have worked alongside Lisa in a variety of district initiatives for over 25 years. During that time, we have worked collaboratively as colleagues in special education, as both practitioners and now currently as administrators. It came as no surprise to me that the Goffstown School Board chose to honor Lisa with the Cornerstone Award in 2025 due to the incredible advocacy work she has done in support of students and their families as a speech pathologist, an assistant principal, and as a special education facilitator. Lisa is one of the most dedicated, hardworking, organized, and intelligent people I know. She can always be relied upon for innovative ideas, creative problem solving, and out-of-the-box thinking, all for the benefit of maximizing student success and learning. Lisa, I am so proud of all you have accomplished throughout your career and can think of no one more deserving for this prestigious award. Congratulations.
I'm thrilled and honored to recognize Lisa Johnson, an extraordinary individual, with the Cornerstone Award. I have had the pleasure of working with Lisa Johnson for the past several years. Through her patience, leadership skills, and commitment, she has demonstrated remarkable talent in guiding the students and staff in our school community. Congratulations, Lisa. We'll miss you.
For years, Lisa has been the embodiment of knowledge, kindness, and patience, a beacon of support for both students and staff alike. She has tirelessly worked to create an environment where every student and staff member feels valued and inspired to excel. Her extraordinary problem-solving skills have transformed challenges into opportunities, and her incredible organizational and work habits have set a standard for us all. Through her dedication to fostering positive relationships within our educational community, Lisa has not only enhanced the climate of our schools, but has also influenced the lives of countless students, families, and community members. Her loyalty and dedication have left an indelible mark that we will carry forward. Lisa, you will be dearly missed. Congratulations. I cannot think of anyone else more deserving of this award.
I am honored to be able to celebrate an incredible educator, leader, and colleague, Lisa Johnson. As she embarks on her well-deserved retirement, it's fitting that she's also being honored with the Cornerstone Award. Lisa's unwavering dedication, compassionate leadership, and tireless efforts have left an indelible mark on our school and community. She has inspired students, guided teachers, and created an environment where everyone could thrive. Lisa, thank you for your years of service and for showing us what true commitment looks like. We'll miss you dearly, but your legacy will live on. Congratulations.
I'm Jack. I'm Lisa's son. I always thought it was amazing that she was somehow able to spend her career working with so many kids, and then at the end of the workday, she'd have to come home to raise me. According to her and her sister, I wasn't exactly the easiest kid to raise, so I don't really know how she did it, but she did it. Really proud of her for it. I know she started out as a speech pathologist, and worked her way up to vice principal, and she is also on the school board. She's very dedicated to education. I can tell she loved what she did. I would certainly say that, given what she's accomplished, she very much deserves this, more than anyone that I know, really. So yeah, congratulations, Mom.
Each year, the Goffstown School Board presents the Dreamkeeper Award in recognition of people or organizations in the community that have truly gone the extra mile to make the Goffstown dream of providing a superior education a reality. Recipients of the award have demonstrated exceptional service to our school district in a variety of ways, including, but not limited to, acts of heroism, an achievement or accomplishment recognized at the state or national level relating to education, a major investment that enhances education, a significant contribution to the district in service which enhances the quality of education in our schools, and outstanding academic, athletic, and/or community service achievement.
Thank you for that overview of the award. And this year, the Goffstown School Board will recognize two very deserving individuals for the Dreamkeeper Award. The first Dreamkeeper Award winner is the late Captain Bill Connor, who sadly passed away in September of 2024. But the Goffstown School Board and the Goffstown School District and the SAU administration wanted to recognize Captain Connor as an important member of our SAU safety team and someone who has been on the forefront for many decades of ensuring school safety, our evacuation procedures and protocols, and certainly school safety's changed a lot over those years. We miss you, Bill. You're a very, very good man. You're a great, important, valued member of our team, and congratulations.
Captain Bill Connor was just awesome to work with. As the SRO in Goffstown, I saw him regularly, 5 times a month at every one of the school drills. We did a lot of fire drills, lockdown drills, but I really, really always appreciated his perspective on things. It's so easy to get caught up in, this is what the protocol says we do, this is how a lockdown works, this is what you do if this happens. But in reality, is not that simple. And he was awesome at understanding that. And so we'd have our little debriefs after, and the teacher would, this happened. We had a kid here, we had a kid in this bathroom. This teacher was absent, it was a sub. And this is what we did. And I always was in lockstep with him. Well, you did your best, save as many kids as you can. That was our message. I love that he had the same message as me. It was so easy to be on the same page with him. He took it super seriously, but at the same time, he was just a big teddy bear, goofy guy. My dad was a firefighter, so all growing up, that was what I was familiar with. And it was cool to see that in my work dad, in Bill too. He took it so seriously. He was so great here. And I really appreciated all the time I did get to work with him in this role.
Bill Connor, Captain Connor, who not only was a dear friend of mine and a colleague, he's also a master at his skill. Billy, as we like to call him, had a passion for school safety, a professional, doing his job. We would often work together in the capacity of school drills. Billy obviously was involved in all of them and helped our schools become safer because of his knowledge on school safety. Really miss Billy. He was a mentor to me for school safety, and I'm really excited that he's received this award. Congratulations to him and his family.
Throughout his 44 years serving the town of Goffstown in the Goffstown Fire Department, 27 of those years was as a call firefighter, and then his 17 years as a full-time firefighter and fire prevention officer. Bill's passion for fire safety and fire safety education was the foundation and defined Bill's long and successful career. Bill provided many years of school fire safety programs throughout all the Goffstown schools. He conducted the Stop, Drop, and Roll fire safety program for all our preschool and elementary school students, the popular annual Fireman's Muster program for students at Mountain View Middle School, and fire extinguisher training and use at the Goffstown High School. Most likely the most popular school program which Bill created was the Ride to School with the Firefighters Fire Safety Contest. Bill worked tirelessly as a member of the school safety committee to develop safe and effective evacuation procedures, school lockdown procedures, and several other safety programs to keep our children and educators safe.
Bill's focus on educating our students also carried over to his service as an Eagle Scout, Scoutmaster, and advisor to the Boy Scouts of America program here in Goffstown. Bill has mentored and assisted many young students who were seeking a career in the fire service. The values, service to community, leadership, and the Boy Scout motto, "Be prepared," carried over to his career in the fire service. Bill demonstrated the commensurate trait of integrity. He was honest, adhered to a code of especially moral and artistic values, a man of principles and honor. The last and most significant part of Bill Connor's story is his love and devotion to his wife Nancy, their children and grandchildren. Simply mentioning Bill's family in his presence always brought a smile from him.
On behalf of the men and women of the Goffstown Fire Department, both past and present members, we are thankful to the Goffstown School District for presenting the Dream Keeper Award to Captain Bill Connor. There is no better nominee than Bill Connor.
Hi, my name's Randy Loring. I've been here in the district for 9 years and had an honor and a privilege to work with Captain Connor. I am the facilities director here, so we've worked very closely on building safety. We met every year, sometimes twice a year, to go through the building to ensure that all things were safe as it related for public and the students here. If you saw him out on the street, he always took time to stop and just talk with you. He took great pride in explaining what it is that he does and explains it in a way so that we all understood it. His outreach, I'm sure, so many people that it would be endless if we tried to count them all. He was just that kind of a person. He's going to be missed.
My name is Dawn Tabor, Facility Supervisor for the Goffstown School District. I worked with Captain Connor for over 11 years doing the fire safety inspections in our 5 schools. Captain was always willing to share his knowledge with me anytime I had a question. You could see his face light up when he got to explain in detail certain fire safety codes, and I appreciated that. His soft-spoken voice and sense of humor made everyone around him comfortable when he came to visit. One of his favorite trainings was teaching the health classes at Goffstown High School how to properly use a fire extinguisher. I can't think of anyone more deserving of the Dreamkeeper Award than Captain William Connor.
I've known Bill for almost 30 years, both personally and professionally. I met Bill back in the late 1990s when he was a Scoutmaster with the local Boy Scout Troop 99 here in Goffstown. Later, I worked with him professionally in my role both as a teacher and an administrator here in the district. Bill had a passion for fire safety. Back when we were both volunteer leaders with the Scout Troop, he ran a camporee over at the Villa Augustina called Fire in the Fall. The theme was fire safety and emergency preparedness. That same emergency preparedness carried over into his work with the school safety committees. He always wanted the emergency preparedness to be a muscle memory, something that we did automatically without thinking about it. And his work impacted dozens of youth here in Goffstown and surrounding communities. Bill is truly deserving of this award. Congratulations.
I had the pleasure of working with Captain Connor for over a decade. Bill had a rare gift, a sense of humor that could ease the heaviest of moments in a steady presence that brought strength and reassurance to those around him. Whether he was teaching fire safety to students or offering support and guidance to administrators, Bill's impact was immeasurable. He was truly a remarkable man whose legacy will continue to resonate in the Goffstown community and in the Goffstown School District.
It's with a heavy heart that we award Bill Connor with the Dreamkeeper Award from the Goffstown School District. Having known Bill and considered him a friend for many, many years, I can't think of someone who was more special, kind, and caring about the Goffstown community, including all of its students. For those of you who don't know, Bill was our fire inspector who routinely went through our schools to make sure they were safe for all of our staff and all of our students. But that was only part of his job. Bill was just an incredible part of our community. I worked with Bill on the 250th anniversary, the celebration of our great town, and Bill was an integral part of that. And that's when we developed a friendship. And unfortunately, while Bill is not here to receive this award, this is part of his legacy, a legacy that his wife Nancy and his children, grandchildren, and all of his friends and family who loved Bill dearly will recognize Bill's tremendous contribution to the Goffstown School District and our community overall. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Bill's wife Nancy wasn't able to be here this evening, so we will deliver the award to them later. Also, just a note that everybody that receives an award will also be listed on a plaque within the SAU office building. So just want to share that with you as well. With that said, we'll finish up with the third award.
Each year, the Goffstown School Board presents the Dreamkeeper Award in recognition of people or organizations in the community that have truly gone the extra mile to make the Goffstown dream of providing a superior education a reality. Recipients of the award have demonstrated exceptional service to our school district in a variety of ways, including, but not limited to, acts of heroism, an achievement or accomplishment recognized at the state or national level relating to education, a major investment that enhances education, a significant contribution to the district in service which enhances the quality of education in our schools, and outstanding academic, athletic, and/or community service achievement.
This year, the Goffstown School Board will recognize 2 individuals for the Dreamkeeper Award. The second individual is Donnie Ball. Donnie has worked for the Goffstown Truck Center for a long time and has seen a lot of changes and growth over the years. In addition, Don is a community member, a dedicated family man, and someone that we value and trust dearly. So congratulations to Donnie for all the things that you've done. We wish you well in retirement, and congratulations on being this year's Dreamkeeper Award winner.
Don, he's the one-man cavalry, so whenever there was a bus issue at any point in time, over my 30 years here, it seems like it was always Don. Don would fix the bus, get there, quick call, he would be there, and he's always consistent, kind, and dependable. He just got the job done. Never complained, just would always come to help. You and your entire family have just done so much for the town of Goffstown. Thank you so much. And if anyone deserves a little rest and relaxation, it's yourself. So well done with all the support and help you've done with the bus company and all the students and families you've helped over the years by keeping our buses safe and working and on time. So thank you and congratulations and good luck.
As a Senior Vice President for Student Transportation of America, it is my great honor to share my deep appreciation for Don Ball, who truly embodies dedication, excellence, and unwavering commitment to the success of the students of Goffstown. Over the past 40 years, Don has served as a director of maintenance, playing a pivotal role in ensuring the students all across New England arrive safely, on time, and ready to learn every single day. Don's leadership, meticulous attention to detail, and willingness to go the extra mile, quite literally, are what have distinguished him throughout his career. Whether it's maintaining our buses to the highest standards or solving last-minute challenges, Don's dedication has been the backbone of our transportation system. On behalf of everyone at Student Transportation of America, thank you, Don, for your 40 years of outstanding service. We wish you all the best in your well-deserved retirement, and we hope you take pride in knowing that your legacy will continue to inspire us for many years to come.
One of the other things that Don Ball does that people may not ever realize is he assists in making determinations about snow calls. Every single time it snowed or the weather was inclement, I was on the phone with Don Ball at 4 o'clock in the morning. It never failed. The one person I always talk to is Donnie Ball. Donnie and I would both go out and drive. I live in New Boston, Don lives in Goffstown. So we would go out, we would assess the roads, what it looks like, are the highway crews out, are the plows out, and then we would make a determination together. I trust Don, I value his input, I will miss his dedication, I will miss his counsel dearly. Congratulations, Don, and enjoy retirement.
Don has been an integral part of our bus transportation for our students for decades. And what I want to do is not only do I want to congratulate Don, but I also want to kind of dispel, kind of like the dirty little secret of calling snow days, in Goffstown in New Boston. A lot of people think that the superintendent is the one that calls the snow day. But behind that Wizard of Oz curtain is Don Ball. You see, many of you might not know, but Don travels the roads, sometimes with the superintendent, sometimes not. But ultimately, if Don says the buses can't drive on the roads, then that kind of makes the call for everybody. So with that, Don, you've done a spectacular job over the last several decades working in our community, and our students would not have been getting to school without someone like yourself. So I want to congratulate you on a very well-deserved award, and congratulations in your retirement.
So I've had the honor to work with Donnie Ball in the community, and also as a chief of police with the Highway Safety Committee. He knew everything we had to know about roads, about different safety concerns when it came to the children, but often would just come with an overall common sense approach to traffic safety and the needs of the community to keep us safe. Really happy that Don is finding his retirement now, and I'm happy that he's receiving this award. I think he's suited for it, and no one better than him. So thanks for all your help, Don, as a mentor to me, and congratulations to you and your family.
Hello, I'm Amy Marlar.
And I'm Allie Huddy, and we're Don's daughters.
Dad has worked for Goffstown Truck Center for most of our lives, having a variety of responsibilities over the years.
Making sure that buses are roadworthy and safe for kids has always been his top priority.
He's always been vigilant about ensuring that every bus was mechanically sound before hitting the road.
Treating it as if his own children or grandchildren might be aboard each one.
Every winter, it has been part of our dad's job to evaluate the road conditions and determine if it was safe enough for school buses to travel.
This meant many early morning drives at 4 a.m. to test the roads, including areas he knew might be troublesome for the buses in the snow.
He'd then get on the phone to call or text the superintendent, sharing his thoughts and helping to decide if a delay or cancellation was needed.
Requests from his children or grandchildren to call a snow day unfortunately never factored into these decisions.
His job required the on call outside of school hours, including weekends, never hesitating to leave a family dinner or to respond when woken up from an early evening nap.
Always off quickly to rescue the out-of-town sports trip or ski bus that had encountered an issue, responding as rapidly as possible, knowing that there were kids and a bus driver needing to get home safely.
Dad has a very strong work ethic that he's modeled for our family, showing the importance of working hard and doing a good job that you can be proud of.
As well as always being insistent that if you're not early, you're late.
We as his family are so very proud of him, grateful for what he's taught us.
And for what he's given to our community and school district over his many years of service.
Good evening, everyone. The board would like to recognize Dan Cloutier as our own school board member. Dan was elected to the school board in 2012. He served three-year terms, 2 of which he served alongside his daughter, Laura Cloutier. He has been the chair of the Administration and Finance Committee for 9 years, the Technology Committee for 5 years, and treasurer of the SAU Board 19 for 9 years. Prior to becoming a school board member, he was also elected on the Budget Committee in 2003. Between 2005 and 2012, he was the chair, and he also served three-year terms. The board would like to thank you, Dan, for all your time, dedication to the town, the community, and the school district. We wish you a lot of luck in your endeavors.
Thank you. For those of you who hang around when ballots are counting, Donnie Ball is also one of the last people to leave because he seems to have been put in charge of ballot counting late at night, and then he'll have to get up at 4 in the morning to figure out whether school buses can run the next morning. That's one of his hidden talents. Okay, let's move on to the business portion of the meeting. Many of you have heard my lecture before about the deliberative session and what we accomplished. So if you don't want to listen to it, I think the coffee kiosk is open in the lobby. Feel free to go out and get a latte, get me one, and then come on back in 3 minutes. But I'm going to go through this for the people who are new, who haven't heard it. For those of us who remember the good old days, town meeting and school meeting did 4 things in the business area. It did all the community activity, but on warrant articles, there's a chance to discuss, debate, amend, and vote. Those 4 activities were in the traditional town and school meeting. Goffstown, both the school and town side, adopted what's known as SB 2, Senate Bill 2, which was the official ballot act, that took the 4th of those, the voting, and put all the warrant articles for final vote on the written ballot to be voted on the traditional town meeting and school meeting election day, which is the 2nd Tuesday in March, leaving for this meeting the first 3, discuss, debate, and amend. So what's before you on the proposed warrant can be discussed tonight, can be debated, can be amended, but at the end of the meeting, whatever that warrant article is, as it appears, will appear on the ballot to be voted on in March. It's not voted on tonight. We do the first 3, but not the 4th of those steps. So, tonight, if there's a warrant article and there's no amendment made, it will appear as presented on the ballot. What that means is we don't take a final vote on the warrant article. It just goes on. And we'll discuss, at the end of the discussion, I will close the discussion on that warrant article, and we can move on to the next one. Since there's only 3 that we're acting on, it could be a very, hopefully, quick meeting. Few rules. I'm going to call them Raymond's Rules of Procedure. If you go tomorrow night, our long-established town moderator has more complex rules because he thinks in those ways. I think of simple, so we're going to have a few simple rules that are intended to allow civil, orderly discussion. They include comments that you make must be germane to the article. All we're acting on tonight are the warrant articles. If you have other issues involving schools or something, take them up with the school board at a separate meeting. We're acting on the warrant articles. If you wish to be spoken, wait to be recognized by the moderator, and then come down to these microphones. So if you cannot come down, we can bring them to you, but you must speak in the microphone. When you speak, please state your name, even if you've spoken a few minutes before. Even if I've known you for 40 years, I will forget your name, so please give us your name. I will forget your name. All comments are to be addressed to the moderator, to me. If you want to discuss a point with an individual, do it afterwards. I will not allow comments to be directed to individuals. More importantly, I will not allow any derogatory comments about any individuals or the motives. We're going to assume tonight everybody is concerned about the welfare of the Goffstown School District, however different our views may be on what that should be. And it goes unsaid, I will not entertain comments from the audience. If you wish to be heard, please come down. When you come down, you may ask up to 2 questions at a time. Some of you have sat through meetings where the person at the mic just asks questions after question, ties it up. I'm not going to permit that. You can have 2 questions. Nobody has to answer your question, though. I used to use Perry Mason as the example. Most of you are too young to remember Perry Mason and his cross-examination. This is not Perry Mason. You may ask questions. The board, or to whomever, whatever group it's directed to, may answer them later, but they're not required to at that time, because typically questions need to be thought about to have a meaningful answer. So ask your questions, sit down, we'll batch them, and if the board or whoever wants to answer them later, they can. If you want to make a motion to amend, we have forms up here. They must be in writing. You make the motion, and it has to have a second, and submit it to me in writing. You may present it orally, but it has to be in writing. We will then discuss the amendment. An amendment on a warrant article is decided on first, and we vote on whether the warrant article is to be amended. Remember, we don't take a vote on the final warrant article, just on the form of the warrant article. Tonight's warrant articles are pretty simple. A few rules, most of which are imposed by the Director of the Department of Revenue Administration. You cannot change the subject matter of a warrant article. If a warrant article is in a statutory form, you cannot change the wording, just the amount. For example, our general budget, operating budget. You can change the intent. The case of Katie versus Town of Deerfield, we represented Town of Deerfield, fortunately, in that case, said the Supreme Court said you can change the intent, but not the subject matter. I will require written motions for all things except 2 types of motions. The first is a motion to restrict reconsideration. This is a provision in the statutes, RSA 40, that once a warrant article has been discussed, somebody can make a motion that we will not reconsider it later in the meeting. Some of you remember the good old days when I'll pick on the town, we'd have long debates on whether to buy a 10-wheel dump truck or not. It would be voted in, but then at 11:30 at night, when the meeting still dragged on and only 20 people were still in the audience, somebody would make a motion to reconsider that warrant article, bring it back forward, and they'd vote it down. So to prevent that from happening, you can restrict reconsideration only after the warrant article has been discussed. Again, that can be made orally. The other motion that I will accept at the end of the meeting, Lionel, is a motion to adjourn, which technically will be a motion to recess because we're still in session until the March meeting, but I'll accept that as a motion to adjourn. There are a few statutory requirements on voting procedure, secret written ballot, which I'm not going to invite, but you may, and it requires 5 written voters present at the meeting. There are also mechanisms for challenging votes, but since we typically don't have a lot of votes, I'm going to leave those. If you have questions on them, we can bring them up. Okay, what we will do is a parliamentary procedure for a warrant article. we'll have the school board, or in the petition article, the petitioner make a motion to bring it to the chair, to the floor rather, and second it. That brings it forward for discussion. The school board on the school board articles will then give a presentation on it, discuss it, then we can entertain questions from the rest of you. So the order of speaking will be the school board first. Sometimes if the budget committee has comments, we'll listen to them, and then the public. There's one petitioned article that the petitioner can submit, can discuss, the same procedure. I haven't had to enforce strict time limits on speaking, but generally, I'd like, since it's late, keep track of the time on the initial presentation. If you're coming forward to discuss it, I'm going to start looking at you after 2 or 3 minutes and ask you to speed it up, because usually you can make your point in that time. Okay, you all have voting cards. Don't lose them. If there is a vote that's at all close, we take voice votes first, we will take a hand count vote. Our counters ready, so you will, if you're, you'll put up your hand, your voting card. If you're voting yes, I'll say all those in favor, put your hand card up. All those voting no, then put your hand card up. And we'll count the yellow piece of paper to speed up the voting. If there is a written request for a written ballot, again, I hope we don't, but if we do, again, this is your pass to be given a written ballot. So hold on to it. The ballot counters will mark it, give it back to you. Please don't lose it. Please don't throw it in the parking lot when you're done. Are there any questions on the procedure? Some of you have seen this enough, you know it. For those of you who are new, it can be very confusing. I don't want people to be confused. Okay, seeing none, let's jump into the warrant. Okay, the first article is for election of officers. This goes on the written ballot. In fact, it always did, even before SB 2, and it's not discussed or amended tonight. So we're going to pass over it. We're going to go right to Article 2. This is the operating budget. It's a standard form of wording that's required by the statute. Somebody say, who came up with that wording? The legislature did. As a result, the wording cannot be amended. The only part of the operating budget warrant that can be amended is the dollar amount. So we'll jump right into that. Jared, do you have a motion to make?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move Article 2 to the floor.
Jack, do you have a second? Okay, we'll allow it to be brought forward. Jared, are you going to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm not going to get up for now because I'll be passing the microphone very briefly to somebody else. But I did want to talk about what the school budget is and the process that was used. So usually during the summer months, the building administrators get together, they present their budgets to the superintendent. The superintendent kind of looks at it from a first cut perspective, passes it on to the school board, we deliberate, and then we pass on our proposed budget to the budget committee. The budget committee is made up of, even though there's 16 members that are allowed to be in the budget committee, it's made up of 12 at-large members, a member of the school board, a member of the select board, and then there are 2 seats for the water precincts. One of those is vacant, the other one is filled. Those meetings happen between the October, November, December, and even this year into the January timeframe. So this was deliberated by a bunch of people, and you'll see that on the warrant. For those that would like additional information, all of the individual line items are out on the SAU 19 website, and you can look at it under the SAU info tab called Budget Files. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to talk about the vision of our budget and really trying to communicate some of the reasons why we have this proposed budget put in place.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Balke, and I'm very proud to serve as your superintendent of schools. And I have a 17-year unbroken streak of attending Goffstown's deliberative session. I'm not quite as long as Mrs. McKinnon, but I'm getting there. So I'd like to give a little bit of an overview this evening of what we go through and the kinds of considerations we look at as we develop a budget. We start this process, Mr. Gross and I would start this typically over the summer, and as we start to get into the fall, we start presenting to the school board and then ultimately to the budget committee, and we'd like to thank the budget committee for your hard work on the deliberations this year. So this year we continue to focus on high quality instruction. This budget that you have before you is staffing neutral. We don't have any new positions. We aren't seeking any new teaching positions through this budget. And really there are two primary roles that we focused on through this budget. One is IT and the other is facilities. These are two areas that we are in need of some enhancements. So you'll see throughout the budget there is a focus on IT and facilities. With respect to our facilities, as we stand here in the gym at Goffstown High School, I believe that these facilities are the most valuable asset that the community of Goffstown owns. So we try to take good care of our facilities, to be proactive, and to make sure that we're ensuring a quality learning environment for our kids. Another piece that we'd like to focus and just to highlight for everyone is there are a number of new residential developments that are coming into Goffstown. You'll see our enrollment projections this evening. Most communities in New Hampshire are seeing a decline in school enrollment, and we're holding steady. And in fact, we have some concerns because there are a number of developments that we still have not realized the full extent of kids coming into them, such as the Bog Road development. There's a new one, new 46-acre development up in the Spice Rack that's coming in. So we continue to be concerned about the potential of growing, particularly at the elementary level. So as I discussed, our priorities this year are IT sustainability, stability, and security. So when we look at the need to support our teachers, to support teaching and learning, our students, that's hardware, that's software, all the infrastructure for IT as well as the staffing. And this is an area that we have identified that we need to continue to make some growth and that we're planning to do this over multiple fiscal years. So a year from now, you'll hear us talk about IT and facilities. This is going to be multiple years that we need to continue to focus on IT. The same is true for facilities. And just like you're seeing at home, if you have a project that you need to do, everything costs more. So we continue to see an increase in the cost of supplies, the cost of replacing things, equipment, and everything that has anything to do with the trades. We've continued to see cost escalation throughout those areas. So with respect to our facilities, we continue to focus on maintenance, on grounds, as well as repairing. You'll hear more about a capital reserve fund deposit that the school board is recommending this year. This year, the funds are going to be used for the replacement of a water fire suppression cistern replacement at Mountain View Middle School. This is part two, phase two of a two-phase process to fix this fire suppression system, and it is life safety and it's mission critical. So you'll hear more about that this evening. I'd like to talk a little bit about the changing landscape of education in Goffstown. I'm very proud that I've served public schools in New Hampshire. This is my 31st year, and over those years, I've seen a lot of changes in public schools. If you haven't been in a public school in a long time, it probably looks really different than you remember. So we continue to see significant needs in our kids. Since COVID, mental health of our students has continued to be something that we focus on, and we've never seen so many kids with anxiety and depression. So the needs of our kids continues to increase. Behavioral needs. We continue to have students with very challenging behavioral needs, and this is something that has continued to increase and is concerning to all of us, but it's part of the changing landscape of public educations. School safety. So back when I started in this business, we were concerned about kids passing notes. It's a little different now. Now we have significant current concerns with respect to school safety, and we spend a lot of our time focusing on preparedness, our facilities, and the human responses if there were a tragic situation here in Goffstown. We need to be vigilant to respond to any of our needs, anything pertaining to school safety on a moment's notice. In the middle of this, you see funding challenges. I'm not going to belabor and talk a lot about school funding. You've probably heard me rant over the years about this, But school funding continues to be problematic in that the majority of the funds to pay for public schools in New Hampshire come from local property taxpayers. We recognize that this system is problematic, and even though we are the lowest K-12 cost in the system, we recognize the significant burden that all of you pay for the cost of your property taxes that pay for county, municipal, the town, school, as well as the statewide education property tax. Continuing this theme of the changing landscape, leadership succession planning. One of the things that we talked to the school board at length, as well as the budget committee, is a lot of us are getting pretty close to retirement. So our senior leadership here will be retiring over the next several years, and we're trying to be very purposeful and to have planned retirements and to have people who are trained and ready to move into those leadership roles to keep the great work going forward. Technology integration and aging school facilities, I've already talked about, new housing as well. In New Hampshire, the state publishes the cost of every K-12 system across the state. You can't do this on the municipal side, but on the school side of things, you can compare every single school district and every cost across the state for all the schools that we have. And I'm proud to say, but increasingly I'm less and less proud to say, that we are the lowest cost per pupil K-12 system in the state. Now, I'm proud of that in that I feel very strongly that we're delivering a strong educational program, but what could we do if we had a little more? So that's something that we continue to think about. But right now, we use your taxpayer money very judiciously, and we have the lowest K-12 cost in the entire state. So the cost of an average per pupil cost in the state of New Hampshire is $21,545. In Goffstown, we do it for just over 17 grand. That's over $4,446 less than the state average. I would probably be remiss if I didn't tell you that that's actually more money than we receive for adequacy from the state per pupil. We only get about $4,200 per student, and we are $4,400 lower per cost. So we are proud of that. I think that we're delivering a high quality education, but I believe in public education, I believe in our schools, and we need to keep moving forward. So here you can see the cost broken down by elementary, middle, and high school. And again, I won't belabor it, but you can see that we continue to be well below the cost per pupil in every level. So with that, I will pass it off to Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Superintendent Bulkey. So Article 2 is what will be on the warrant article. Shall the Goffstown School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted on separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted within the warrant as amended by the first session, which is today. The proposed amount is $57,152,484. Should this article be defeated or voted down, the default budget shall be $56,897,002, which is the same as this fiscal year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Goffstown School Board and or by law. This was recommended by the school board in a vote of 9-0, and this was also recommended by the Budget Committee in a vote of 14-1. One of the questions that we often get is, what is the warrant article actually made up of? The warrant article is made up of 3 distinct budgets. The first one is the general fund, or what we call Fund 10, often within our school budgets. The second is the food service, and the third is the special revenue fund. The food service and special revenue funds are general funds that receive receive money through, what do we call those? Through individual revenues. So they are not raised by taxes. So there is no taxation that happens for the food services, which we estimate at $1.4 million, and the special revenue is $1.3 million. However, those do add to the operating fund, and that's where that number comes out on the warrant article itself. You'll see the difference between the default and the proposed budget is $255,000 and some change. As we look at this, you can see that difference, that if we passed, or this warrant article did fail, we would have an increase of 2.44% of this year's budget. And again, as Superintendent Bulkey talked about, that's made up of mostly our contracted services that we have, so those GEA contracts and the GES contracts that were voted on, as well as other things prescribed by law. That's what makes up that 2.44%. If the default budget is, if the proposed budget is passed, the proposed increase is 2.92% from this fiscal year. The key takeaway from this slide is the proposed budget and the default budget are both less than 3% over this fiscal year that we are currently in. As the superintendent talked about, there are no new FTE positions. We recognize the needs that occur within the school, and we move positions as appropriate and the needs of the individual students themselves. Special ed increases did occur or are projected to occur. We're looking at a 5% cost increase for approved vendors, providers, and contracted services for our special education. We also have those obligations to the GEA and GESS unions that luckily you have voted for in prior years. Salary and benefits represent $960,000 of the $1.29 million increases from this fiscal year. This is also previous approved contracts with the support staff, and there were increases in health insurance for those of about $36,000. So again, those are required to be put into the default, and that's why you see that kind of jump of 2.44%. So what accounts for those budget increases? When we look at those special education, those out-of-service districts are $165,000. Information technology, $34,000. We also have increased costs for our building maintenance of $130,000 and our regular and sped transportation of $232,000. Some of these are baked into the default budget, some of these are also in the proposed budget. But it's important for us to really communicate where the money is going as part of this process. What you see here is a graph, and I know I'm going a little bit fast because I think we want to get moving a little bit forward or a little bit on. But you see the proposed budget and the cost breakdowns associated with the total budget. What you see is regular and special education support and instructional services account for a majority of the money that we're asking for and where that's going. So I'm kind of squinting with my eyes, but you can see regular education is 38% or 37% of the total. Special education is roughly 13.7 million, which is roughly 24%. You have vocational educations, co-curriculars, school support services, the SAU, transportation costs. Transportation is a little over $3 million to get our kids to the schools. We have some additional demographic data that we wanted to share, and this was touched on briefly. But these are the past enrollments that we have had within the schools, as well as the projected enrollments we're expecting for next year. It is very difficult for us to try to predict what our Glen Lake School is going to have for enrollments. They do a great job, and I recognize that, and I think I say that every year. So, Principal Stoyle, we thank you for doing the best you can. But as you can see, year over year, we don't have much of a drop-off within Goffstown. We are level, which means that as students are graduating through that attrition, we have new students that are coming in based on people selling houses, new families coming in, taking those spots for those graduated students that we have. You will see on this slide, even though that there's a decrease in state education for pupils at the state level, Goffstown remains steady. We are bucking the trend. As there are less students to educate in New Hampshire, Goffstown is remaining steady. Again, I think that's due to our housing that we have and the culture we have here within the town. We do expect some enrollment increases to come. As the superintendent talked about, and as we watch the planning board having their discussions, we know of multiple developments that are occurring within Goffstown. We know that this is going to impact or could have an impact in our school system. We did a survey several years ago for space needs that articulates we're doing okay at the middle school, we're doing okay at the high school, but at the elementary school level, we're kind of busting at the seams, and these developments might impact our enrollment and our district placements that we have between Maple and Bartlett. As you can see, Bog Road development, that one's coming online very shortly. We got the Dennis Park, the Cinnamon Woods, and then those townhouses on Mass Road. All of those could impact our school-age children that we have coming into the school system. As we look at SPED, special education, and where it's really concentrated within our school systems, you'll see a majority of it is at Glen Lake. If we have people or students with IEP starting at age 3, so right when they turn 3 years old, if they have IEPs, we are required by law to offer them services. That's what Glen Lake is for. Luckily, the school board has increased our role model students that also go along with our SPED students for grades 3 and 4 for preschool, so that going forward, that will be offered 4 days a week instead of 3 days, and hopefully that will increase those the preschool age children that come into Glen Lake. If you do have one of those role model students, you pay tuition. That is not free for those role model students. So even though we're increasing it from 3 days to 4 days, there will be revenue coming in to offset those expenses that occur for that additional day. But having kids in school 4 days versus 3 days hopefully is better for those parents, so they don't have to try to find that one day that the child's not at school. I'm going to now turn it over to Scott to talk about projected revenues as well as some of our tax history. And there you go, Scott.
Thank you, Jared. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Gross. I'm the business administrator for the Goffstown School District. And I'm showing you right now the revenues that are being projected for next school year. So these are very important. So we know that we have expenses, but the revenues are really important because they impact what you have to pay on your tax bills. So the more revenue, the more offset that we have, and it helps the taxpayers. So you'll see the first one is local revenue. Local revenue, as Jared mentioned, we do role model preschool students, brings in some revenue. We get a lot of revenue from the town of New Boston. So we educate their 7th through 12th graders, and that brings in quite a bit of revenue. We also get revenue from parking passes, and I'm sure some high school kids may not like that, but it does generate some revenue. And we're working on a policy right now with regard to maybe advertising on our fields and schools, and that might bring in some more revenue. So we do look at revenue as a way to offset taxes. The next is your state revenue, and you'll see here that it's a little over $530,000 that's projected. One of the things that you have seen in the news this particular year was special education aid. So the state has a program whereby if you have students that have intensive needs and they cost a lot of money to the community to educate those kids, this is more often the case where you send a student outside of the town to another school. The state has a program to reimburse communities for these very high expenses. Unfortunately, this past year, all across New Hampshire, the amount that was budgeted was not sufficient. And the state was only able to provide revenue that was 67% of the need. So with that, Goffstown saw $255,000 less in state aid revenue. And unfortunately, if there is something right now that I think the governor and the commissioner of education are working on to provide that $255,000 shortfall back to the community. But if that does not happen, unfortunately, that falls on the shoulders of the local taxpayers. We do get federal grants. We sometimes are fortunate enough to write grants and get those as well. But these grants are mostly for special education, title programs. and they will bring in about 1.8, a little more than that, $1 million. Use of fund balance to reduce taxes. This is an amount of money, $1.7 million. This is either an overcollection of revenues where we had projected certain revenues and we got more, as well as savings within our budget. And then the two biggies that I know a lot of people see in the news is, and we talk about a lot at school board meetings, is New Hampshire adequacy. So you'll see that it went up a little bit, a little over $8.1 million that the state provides. And the superintendent mentioned a little over $4,200 per student. That's the base adequacy. And then you get more adequacy depending upon the percentage of students that are on a free and reduced lunch, that might have special needs, that are reading below grade level, etc. The next revenue that we get is the statewide property tax called SWEPT. And that one you'll see went down a little bit. So this is a tax that actually is taxed locally, retained locally, but it's the state's obligation to provide a constitutional education requirement for students. So that went down a little bit. And then the last revenue, which again, we mentioned before, that capital reserve fund deposit, there is that $300,000 offsetting revenue. So what you're going to see, the bottom line is that we've got less than $200,000 of additional revenue. What I wanted to show you on this next slide here, and this is the same as I explained last year, is that the blue line is the local education taxes, and aside from that big dip, that's kind of how I got this job. Yeah, so it's been trending that way, but the state education, the state SWEPT, has really been rather flat. So with that, that's why there's been 3 lawsuits. You see this in the news all the time. There's court cases, etc. This is one of the bigger issues in New Hampshire. We're not going to belabor it. You probably all know about it already. So now the issue of taxes. So I try to provide the school board and the budget committee with an estimate on what we think the tax impact might be. And I am always leery of this because if I'm too conservative, that's not good. If I overestimate or underestimate, you kind of don't win. But what I'm projecting here is that we're looking at about a 54-cent tax increase should all the warrant articles pass. So with that, for a median home assessed at a little over $414,000, if the proposed budget passes, there will be an increase of $232 with the proposed budget and $194 increase on the default budget. So again, there's a $38 difference between the proposed and default budget. So that's my guesstimate, and as Jared always says, Scott, you always are conservative, and it usually, Dan, right? I mean, I'm usually a little conservative on this, so it usually is lower, but you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Default budget, there was a default budget that was a handout that you had as you came in, and as Jared mentioned during his presentation, this is the budget that the school district will operate on should the proposed budget not succeed at the polls, and it is dictated by statute. And as Jared also mentioned, we have 2 labor unions, 2 contracts, the teachers union and our support staff union, and the voters approved both of those contracts a couple of years ago, and those cost increases are part of the default that Jared mentioned. So you have this handout, and this is also on the website. I'm not going to go too much. So before I turn it over, I wanted to thank Dan Cloutier. Didn't do that before, but Dan has been invaluable to me as our admin finance, and I want to thank you for your years of service, and I'm going to miss you, buddy. That's it.
Thank you. I probably should have read the warrant article, but I was so anxious to hear the presentations, I skipped over that. So Jared, thank you for saving me from my omission. Oh, Brian? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're going to push me aside.
Sorry. I'll be really quick. So we just have a few more things to share. So you heard me talk about the lowest K-12 cost in the state. I'd like to talk about the return on investment. So just to show on our website, we have a document called the Accent on Achievement, Goffstown Achievement. This document shows all of our test scores, and I won't belabor this, and I don't want this to be an eye chart if you can't quite see it. But what you see here is way off to the left, you see Goffstown Achievement, and you see us compared to a number of other towns. The purple line on the top is the cost per pupil spending. So you can see that our achievement is really high and our cost per pupil continues to be very low. Same story here at the middle school. In terms of our testing data, we're at or above the state averages in almost every area. And then Goffstown High School, again, same story here. So you can see off to the left, Goffstown High School continues to be performing as a high-performing high school in the state of New Hampshire. And the last thing that I'll show is this is our participation and pass rate of advanced placement exams. And what I'm most proud of with this is that we see the number of kids increasing of how many kids are taking AP exams, and the pass rate continues to go up. So this isn't just reflective of the great work that's done here at Goffstown High School. This is reflective of the great work of all of our teachers, all of our educators, from Glen Lake all the way up through Goffstown High School. So that's the end, Mr. Moderator, so thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Alton. Okay, that's the article. It's been presented. Does anybody have any questions on the article? Seeing none, I will close.
Moderator, we have one on to the right.
I'm sorry. Come on up. Give us your name, please.
Hi, Sierra Hubbard. Do you need my address? No. Okay. So I was just hoping, you had mentioned, the superintendent had mentioned during the presentation about that it was a staffing neutral budget, and that there's no added FTEs, but you talked about the reshuffling. And I know on the actual line item budget documents that are on the website, there are some lines that look like there are adds to assistant principal lines, but I know obviously me looking at it, I don't have all the context. I was just hoping for a little bit more explanation on that reshuffling and what that actually is going to look like in the schools.
Okay, thank you. Well, the board is pondering that. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, is that? I hear somebody coming down. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Liz Dolan from Worthley Hill Road. I have two questions. One is, just out of curiosity, what our dropout rate is in Goffstown. And the second question is how we are impacted by that new money that goes to homeschoolers. How much are we having to give back to those people? And what kind of accountability goes with that money?
Okay. Any other questions? Heather, how do you want to answer those?
Mr. Moderator, I think I'm allowed to answer the first question that was there. I'm getting a head shake of yes.
Yeah, I recognize Jared Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for your question. We do have a headcount neutral. So what's happened for the high school, as an example, is we are moving a curriculum coordinator position to an assistant principal position. And that is really for the succession planning we're going to be having at the high school. I know that it was announced that Mr. McBride will be leaving us, and if you did not know that, well, now the cat's out of the bag, Mr. McBride. But that's one of those situations where we recognize that we do have to absorb the curriculum coordinator for 1 year into that position so that we can have a new principal established as Mr. McBride is leaving in that final year. That's just one example. There may be others that you see where, hey, wait a minute, this number is higher than the previous years for that particular line item. That's because this board did make a decision to move those positions from one school to another. And we do have that located in our minutes that we have throughout the year.
Okay. Scott, are you going to elaborate?
Ms. Dolan, with regard to your question, you're talking about the education freedom accounts, which I'm not so sure it's germane to this, but it's approximately 48 students. We do get some aid from the state with respect to that, but it's not a very substantial number in the grand in the grand scheme of things based upon the current law right now. And that there is legislation right now that might alter that, but I'm not so sure that it is germane for tonight.
Okay, thank you. And then there was a question on dropout rate. I don't know if you can answer that, but you're not compelled to.
I would have to look it up on the state website. There is a phenomenal resource called iPlatform on the State of New Hampshire website, and it has a report card for every school district in the state. Dropout rates is one of them. I can certainly answer your question by looking it up in a few minutes.
Okay,
it's less than 5%, I can tell you that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is William Mackenzie.
Can you speak into the mic more?
My name is William Mackenzie.
Okay.
Is or are the Goffstown taxpayers doing the bookkeeping for teacher union dues?
Is that your question?
That's the question.
Okay, thank you. We'll take your question, as I said before, and the board can answer it after they ponder it, but you're not going to stand up there and ask a series of questions. Do you have other questions to ask?
The question is very simple. Are the taxpayers in Goffstown, through the school board and the administrative level, collecting dues and dispersing them to organized labor at the state or federal level?
Okay, thank you, sir. I will let the school board consider that, and when they're ready to respond, they will. Do you have any other questions to ask now?
Well, yeah, why can't the question be answered?
At the beginning of the meeting, I set the rules, and we're following the rules that I set, that this is not a question and answer session. You may ask a question, the board will have a chance to consider it and answer them, but we're not answering individual questions. I'm sorry. Now, if you'll step aside, this next lady has a question.
That's not very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Karen Manaski. I have a question about the changing landscape.
Could you spell your name? I'm sorry.
M-O-N-A-S-K-Y.
Thank you.
I have a question about the changing landscape of education in Goffstown. And I'm wondering about mental health and what kind of cost that incurs, as well as what is it that's actually being done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Heather, I don't know if you want to answer or have anybody answer any of those questions.
The dropout rate, 1.16%. Mr. McKenzie, I don't know where you went. Yes, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, he's here. Mr. McKenzie, I just want to respond to your question. The collective bargaining agreements, there are two of them. One is a teacher's collective bargaining agreement, and then the other one is our support staff. As part of that agreement, the school district withholds the dues for those members who are parts of those unions, and then it is collected and then given to the union. So that is to the extent of the bookkeeping. It is part of their payroll deductions, and then a lump sum check goes to the union. And that's part of the, like I said, it's part of the negotiation that takes place.
Okay, thank you.
And with regard to Karen, where's Karen? All right, Karen, you were talking about mental health and what are we doing. So there's a couple of things. So a year or two ago, what Jared mentioned, some of the repurposed positions, we did add a counselor, again, repurposed guidance counselor at Mountain View Middle School. So I think that's one of the areas where guidance counselors provide a tremendous amount of support with regard to students with mental health. As someone who is not part of the education type world, I've learned a lot in my 6.5 years here. And you talk to guidance counselors, especially here at the high school, they would have told you 10 years ago they spent the majority of their time on career and college preparedness for students. they'll tell you now that they spend the majority of their time on student mental health. So it is not just guidance counselors that deal with mental health issues. It is every single educator in our school district has to be attuned to that. There is mandatory training that every staff member, state law, has to participate in. Not just in terms of some of the bad things like signs of suicide, but knowing if a child is in a distressed situation. And that's for paraprofessionals, food service workers, teachers, administrators, you name it. So mental health is critically important, and it's a layered effect in terms of how it's dealt with, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
One last piece I would add, Karen, is our special education department also supports our students that have different types of mental health needs. So that's also part of the special ed services that we provide to students.
You asked about cost, you said? That one is, it's a tad bit difficult because there is no quantifier. So yes, a lot of our guidance counselors, it's like as I said before, when you have multiple employees throughout the district dealing with mental health issues, it's hard to determine what percentage of their job they're dealing with. But our guidance counselors, specifically, we have school psychologists, we have administrators who spend time with students in distress as well, our nurses. So it would be really difficult to put a price tag on that, and I just couldn't give you a number.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on Article 2? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Sierra Hubbard. In the PowerPoint online, I think it was in the Budget Committee's budget presentation, it included that the number of violent incidents, which I think it said was 98 incidents in fiscal year 24. I just wanted to know, and it was noted in there that it was in the top 25% of the highest ones in the state of New Hampshire. And so I just wondered if anyone could give context to that, if that's a significant increase over last year's, and how, again, some of these positions can support the staff and teachers if we're seeing an increase in that year over year.
We'll let them ponder that. Do you have any other questions that you want to ask? Because I put it out now so they can. Okay, again, the board does not have to answer that, but it may. Brian?
Yeah, if the board would like me to respond to that, I shared that metric when I was at the Budget Committee to let the Budget Committee know the importance of our administrators that help support teachers when we have students who have issues with regulation, with behavioral control, et cetera. We hold kids accountable. I don't want anyone to think that there is a lack of discipline. There is absolutely structured discipline expectations, but people have to understand that we are dealing with an epidemic of mental health in this younger generation. These are just the facts, the statistics of the number of kids dealing with depression, anxiety, et cetera. We've got a lot of kids that are really hurting out there, and anyone who has young children likely sees that. So that's what that fact is. And I've been really clear and really honest and straightforward about the challenges that we have. And part of the reason I was sharing that is it's important to have the administrative support to deal with unruly children so that the classroom teachers have the support that they need.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the discussion on Article 2.
Mr. Moderator.
And move to Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, like to be heard? Over here, sorry.
Sure.
Motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 2.
Motion made by Jared Talbot to restrict reconsideration. Remember, if this is passed, I'll take a second, but who's going to second? Well, while you're still here, we'll let you second, Dan. Okay? If this passes, we cannot come back and discuss this article again. Motion's been made to restrict reconsideration of Article 2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for getting in the minutes. We're taking a second where you still can. Okay, Article 3, I'll try to remember to read this one. Shall the Goffstown School District vote to raise and appropriate up to $300,000 for deposit into the existing Facilities Capital Reserve Fund established in 2019, with this sum to come from the June 30, 2025 unassigned fund balance or surplus available for transfer on July 1, 2025. No new amounts to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. School board voted 8-1 to 0 to recommend. Budget committee voted 14-1 to 0 to recommend. Laura, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would like to move Article 3 to the floor.
Okay, motion's been made by Lauren Dukas. Jenny, do you have a second? Okay, seconded by Jenny McKinnon. It's brought to the floor. Scott, you're going to discuss this?
Lauren is going to start.
Lauren, okay, and I'll let you, between the two of you, talk a little about what a capital reserve fund is, because it's a special budgetary tool, and what an unassigned fund balance is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to start off by providing, oh no, not AP exams. There we are. Mr. Moderator, have you read that? So what is a capital reserve fund? A capital reserve fund is, and why it's important for our district and so many other communities in New Hampshire. A capital reserve fund is an amount set aside for future or unpredictable expenses or losses. These funds can also be used for long-term capital investment projects or improvements. Examples of projects that may be eligible for CFR funds include building repairs like windows and roofing, replacing equipment like HVAC units and fire panels. When it comes to Goffstown CRF specifically, these funds can only be used for repair or replacement of existing facility assets. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. They cannot be used for new facilities or educational programming. Our fund was established by the voters in 2019, and since then voters have seen the value of and approved of the CRF warrant article for 6 consecutive years. So why? Why is the CRF an important funding source for our district? The first reason is that it helps us to fund critical projects on our capital improvement plan. The town and the school district maintain planning tools called the Capital Improvement Plan. The CIP is for projects that need to be or should be completed over the next 6 years. Planning this way helps our community for needed investments over time and to also make sure that these costs are spread out over time and not hitting all at once. The school district has been very active in updating its portion of the CIP. There are currently 71 school projects on the CIP matrix. Many of these projects have no funding mechanism, and the district has been struggling to pay for necessary repairs and replacements to our buildings. Some of these projects are eligible to use for CFR funds. In fact, there are over $1.5 million of CRF eligible projects on the CIP over the next 2 fiscal years. So making new deposits into the CRF will help us fund some of these important facilities projects as we spend money out of that account each year. A CRF can also be used for unplanned or emergency capital expenses. For example, we recently used CRF funds for an urgent fire panel project at Goffstown High School that we did not anticipate that is currently in the works. And finally, keeping funds in our CRF allows us to apply for grants that require a match. For a lot of these grants, you have to have funds and community support available before you can even apply to get funds or to get the grants. So for example, the CRF allowed us to get a $40,000 match to replace some lighting with LEDs, which increases our energy efficiency. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gross. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. So one of the benefits of the Capital Reserve Fund is, like you said, it's a great opportunity for the school district to plan and to fund projects that we know, projects that need replacement. So as part of our efforts to be very transparent in terms of where these funds are going, I wanted to at least demonstrate to you just a sampling of projects that have been done. You'll note that we're going to be talking a little bit about Mountain View Middle School and the cistern repairs that we need to do, which is phase 2. But phase 1 occurred in 2022. That was $162,000 that was spent. We replaced a boiler at Glen Lake for $36,000. Replaced a tractor here. We did theater renovations. This past year, we replaced our district-wide phone system that was aging. That's a mission critical thing. We replaced a rooftop unit at Mountain View Middle School, and as we mentioned before about our priorities, we're replacing our district firewall. And in this one, as Lauren mentioned, we're able to leverage grants. And there is a program called E-Rate. It's a program that the federal government gives 50% reimbursement on connectivity projects that the school district pursues. And so that one's a 50% match. So we're looking to, the board voted to spend $50,000 on that one. You'll note that we requested this year $300,000. Initially, the school board requested $400,000, but with partnership with the budget committee, their request was to lower it to $300,000. The school board felt that that was a very reasonable request. There was a defined or a definitive project, which is this Mountain View Fire Cistern project. So at the end of the day, what you'll see here is that we've got a little over $194,000 in this particular CRF, with a deposit of $300,000, which we plan on spending. This summer, we'll still have $194,590 left. So I know we get the question every year, you know, what are you spending it on? Well, in the summer of 2025, we are planning to complete this project. Because we're doing fire suppression work, we can't have students in the building for summer school. So summer school for Mountain View students will be at Goffstown High School, with the exception of one grade, they will remain, fourth graders that are moving up to Mountain View, they'll still remain at their local school for summer school. But we can't have students in the building when this happens because we don't have any fire suppression. But going forward, we have certain sections of roof that need to be replaced from time to time. We have a fire panel at Mountain View that will need to be replaced, as well as a in-building transformer. So for those of you who are new to Goffstown, Mountain View Middle School is over 30 years old, and it's now starting to need a lot of work. These are pictures that our facilities director, Randy Loring, shared with me. This is like a building that's on the side of a hill, right, Randy? And it's not really the most fun room to be in. I've been in there once, and what you'll see is that the piping is very rusty. They have to go in and they're going to deal with not only the cistern tank itself, but they're going to repipe a lot of these the pipes that are going through that cement wall. So this is kind of an extensive project, and with that, this is a very important thing that the Goffstown community has supported, and it helps us a great deal. This year it's going to be going to Mountain View. So Jim, with that, I don't know if there are any questions.
Is there I'll say that again. Does anybody have any questions on Article 3, the Capital Reserve Fund article? Yes, ma'am. Although you told us a few minutes ago, please tell us your name again.
Karen Manaski, Monasky.
Thank you.
So it's my understanding that the unassigned fund balance is actually taxes, our taxes where we overpaid, and that's why there is no new amount to be raised from taxation, because we've already been taxed and you've been holding that money.
Thank you. That's your question?
Yes or no?
No. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Scott, do you want to answer that?
That's accurate, Karen. That's accurate. So the unassigned fund balance comes from two places. It comes from an underspend of the general fund budget, and it comes from the overcollection of revenue. So our fund balance together from those two elements, but you're accurate. So money that's been raised by taxation that the district didn't fully spend, that's the money that we're asking to make the deposit into the capital reserve fund.
Scott, do you have anything to say to that?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Hi, I'm John Porter, and I would like to ask a fairly silly question, but What is a cistern? It occurs to me that everyone might not understand the purpose of this thing.
One of the things I've always liked about John, and I've known him for a long time, is his common sense. And we just saw an example of that. That's an excellent question. Scott, can you?
I'll take that real quick, Scott. So the cistern at Mountain View, we have to pump the water uphill. It might make sense to use it at the top of the hill and pump down, but when they designed the school, they have a fire suppression system that has a large reservoir tank that has a diesel unit that turns on and actually pumps the water up the hill. That's what comprises the cistern. It's an elaborate water collection, pumping up the hill, and then spreads it throughout the school during a fire situation. Thank you for that question.
Yes, sir.
Henry Geisen. A quick question pertaining to this amendment. So we're requesting $300,000 from the unassigned fund, which, as Superintendent stated, was a combination of being frugal at the town level or over collecting. Do we know how much unassigned funding is available at this point in time before we vote on where it's getting spent?
Thank you. Do you want to?
Yeah. So right now, we typically do not know what it is right now, but we do projections. So at the end of each fiscal year, so for us in the school, that is June 30th. We have an audit immediately thereafter, and we get that figure usually in August. So it's a projection. So the projection is that we will have $2 million of unassigned fund balance, $300,000 that would be used for this project, and then another $1.7 million that's going to go to reduce taxes. So I've been fairly conservative on those types of projections, and usually it's been higher, but I don't want to project, say $2 million, and then it falls at 1.7, and then everybody's complaining that, hey, you kind of did a bait and switch. So, but generally, that's what the projection is right now. If hypothetically something like bad were to happen, and we had like $300,000 or $400,000 expense, then that would certainly change things. And it's really difficult on the school side, because as we've had here in Goffstown and as we've had in New Boston, one student who goes to an out-of-district placement, it could cost $150,000 with transportation, upwards of $500,000. And we can't project it, we can't predict it, and it just happens. So that's the volatility, Henry, sometimes of why you're trying to take educated guesses, and business administrators like myself try to be conservative on it so that we don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on Article 3? Seeing none, I will close the discussion on Article 3. Mr. Talbot, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Moderator. I motion to restrict reconsideration.
Mr. Collier? Oh, come on, we're going to let Dan have his chance. Okay. Second by Dan.
I second the motion, thank you.
All those in favor of restricting reconsideration on Article 3, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, ayes have it. Okay, motion, reconsideration is restricted. We will now move to Article 4, which is a petitioned warrant article. Now, under the statute on how the warrant is created, articles can be placed here by the school board and working with the budget committee, or petitioned by 25 voters in the town. Same on the town side in the warrant article. This is a petitioned warrant article. I will read it. It's a long article. I will say that let's bring it forward first. We, the undersigned, are directing the superintendent to make available access to the check register on the school district website. This information has been available to Bedford residents for many years. Bedford residents can monitor monthly expenses paid out of the school district bank account. Residents can access this information through a 91A right to know request, but this can be a cumbersome task with school officials. By providing this information on the district website, school officials can direct people to the website for this information. That should cut down on time and money spent on gathering this information. Why should you support this? And it has some arguments, transparency, so make many expenditures transparent to fiscally responsible. This will cut down on the cost of having to search and provide information to those who file 91A right-to-know requests for this information. School board does not recommend this article by a 9-0 vote. I understand, is the petitioner here and like to move this? Yes, sir. What is your name? Okay, and you move to bring this forward. Is there a second? Yes, what is your name, ma'am? Can you spell that, please? Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Am I just to
well, you're
do the amendment?
Yes. Well, no. First of all, you're the petitioner on this article.
Yes.
So you may make an amendment if you wish. To start right, you choose the way you want to present this.
Yes, so I was at the school board meeting when they were talking about these articles, and it was made clear that the language wasn't correct. So I want to make an amendment to amend the language of the warrant article because I was told it was supposed to be in the form of a question.
Okay, do you have that amendment written out?
I do.
You can bring it forward.
I also sent it in. I don't know if...
Yeah, I did. I copied it on the next slide.
Oh,
I got it late this afternoon.
Okay.
That's the one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you, Mr. Temple, why don't you give me your written one? So for our records, we need it.
Sure.
Unless you need that.
So can I talk about it now? Okay, thanks. So Brian Templeton.
Oh, okay. We'll read the amendment then. Wait a minute. This is the amended version, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Shall the school district direct? This is the proposed amendment. Bear in mind, a warrant article that's been proposed to be amended must be voted on by this group. So he's made a motion to amend the warrant article to the following wording. Shall the school district direct the superintendent to make available access to the check register on the district website? And then is the remaining language is the same as previously, isn't it? It goes on, okay. Similar information has been made available to Bedford residents for many years. Bedford residents can monitor monthly expenses paid out of the school district bank account. Residents can currently access some information on the website, but it is a cumbersome task. By providing this information on the district website, school officials can direct people to the website for this information, making the process more expedient and easily accessible for citizens. Why should you support this? Question mark. 1, increased transparency and accountability. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Templeton.
Okay, so Brian Templeton. I wanted to just start off by saying that this petition was started not as a way to, infringe on the accountability of the school district or any of the schools. We found out from a resident of Bedford that they were doing this there for years, and we thought that this was a great way for the citizens to be able to get information much easier, and also to provide an opportunity for transparency, so that, transparency isn't a bad word. So I also wanted to say that if you come tomorrow night, you'll see that we did a petition for the town as well, the town website. And when we put the petition in there, I was actually invited to the select board meeting by the town manager because they wanted to talk to me about it. So I went down and talked to them about it, and The whole discussion took probably about 5 minutes, and they voted to recommend unanimously. The reason why I changed the wording about and put in the line about there is some information on the website is because when I was at the school board meeting, I found out from Scott that there was something called a manifest summary on the district website in the Goffstown School Board section. And I went on there and tried to find it, and it was, I had to go through at least 6 drop-down menus, and I wasn't able to find it. I ended up having to call him back, and he sent me the direct link, so I was able to find it. So my thought process was that, if the manifest summary is where we can get this information, why is it so hard to find? And and before then, I'd never heard of the manifest summary. I'm not sure if anybody else has. And in Bedford, by the way, a taxpayer, the person who wanted to have this put on their website, actually just asked directly to the superintendent there, and the superintendent just put it up. And I didn't know that, so that's why we did the petition. I just wanted to address this handout that we were given about a crime that was committed against Northampton. And I just want to say that in the highlighted part here, they're talking about how the town...
Is that a school handout? What handout are you referring to?
I think they gave it here.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. We can't bring in other matters.
I think it was given out here because it was a way to say that this is not a good idea.
Okay.
But actually, it says in here that the criminals acquired bank information and then used it to commit fraud against the school. But I have copies of what the check register looks like in Bedford, and there is no bank information on there. The closest thing that you could say would be bank information would be check numbers. There's no routing number, account number, or any of those things. And I also want to point out that at the bottom it says that even though the criminals were not found, the town administrator said that changes were made in 2018 to improve security with the town's accounts. Since that happened 4 years ago, we've upped our security measures, different programs with the bank that make sure we're protected. We've taken steps. So it's easy enough if you have the proper security to make sure that your information isn't going to be stolen. So once again, I just want to reiterate here that the reason why we put this in was to help the citizens make it much easier for them to get the information that they have the right to know, the taxpayers, and that it offers a level of transparency for the administrators and the schools. It offers a level of them to say to the taxpayers, this is it, this is what we got.
Okay.
So if that all makes sense.
Right. Thank you. Just procedurally, Mrs. Templeton, somebody dropped a voting card, it might be yours. To be clear, you and Mrs. Templeton have moved to amend the original petition, correct? Okay. So we'll discuss first the amendment, and then we can go to the petitioned warrant article. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question.
What's your name?
My name is Lynnae Peterson,
Okay.
Linnae. I live on First Ave.
Thank you.
I am greatly concerned with the security of this. It has become evident in the last several years that security for all kinds of bank accounts is a problem. And I wanted to ask the board and anybody else what they thought of our security system. Is it up to doing something as transparent as this?
Okay, thank you. I think the board will address this in other questions. We'll put that on the list. Let's see, yes, ma'am.
My name is Kristen Rem. Mr. Moderator, thank you. I'd like to ask the petitioner
address your questions to me,
sorry.
please.
What information is needed or needed to be received further than the information that the school board delivers in all of their school board meetings? And I wanted to also, besides the safety being a concern, know what kind of safeguards that they had in mind that could help make sure that no security problems happen, alongside the cost of doing something like that. And can it be just as simple as asking someone on the school board for that information or a direct link and save us all a lot of time and effort? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Joshua Douglas, Tyler Drive. I'll answer some of that. I actually am okay with the check register being exposed. I do know that Bedford has that. I went and looked it up. I actually have over 20 years of cybersecurity experience, and I can tell you that some of the information in there is what some people would consider to be PII, meaning that it actually has personally identifiable information. In fact, if you go into the register, into that space, you'll actually see full names in there as well. So if that is a concern, which I think some of the town has had when people have actually used 91A, we should all just make sure that we keep that in mind. However, anybody is able to get that if they go ask, which is accessible today. But if you don't want that exposed, then I just think that you guys think about that too, or at least to the general public. As far as cybersecurity is concerned, at least where Bedford has it, they have it on a Google Drive. If somebody were to accidentally copy extra information than what's exposed in the check register, you could get additional details.
Thank you. When these references to 91A, that's RSA 91A, it's the New Hampshire right to know law is the common term on right to disclosure of public documents. So you make a 91A request, you're making a request for documents with a governmental entity. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Vaughn. I'm just wondering.
Could you say that again a little louder? I'm sorry.
Elizabeth
Yes.
Vaughn.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering why the school board voted against it 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Does the board wish to address any of these? You're not compelled to. Joanne?
On the amendment.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Moderator, I think we may need 5 signatures on that amendment that Mr. Templeton handed in.
Okay, this is simply a motion to amend, not a secret ballot. A secret ballot would require 5 signatures. A motion to amend can be motion made and seconded.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's a procedural question, and somebody else asked it too, and that's my ruling. Thank you.
All right, I'm hoping I can remember all these questions. So first and foremost, the last one was why did the school board vote 9-0 to not recommend? And I believe it was in 2 parts. One, the petition warrant article was not in the form of a question. So in order for it to be legally on the ballot, there needed to be an amendment and letting the petitioner know that that's something that had to get done. I spoke to Mr. Templeton and another gentleman who signed the petition last week because I wanted to be upfront and let them know what some of the concerns were, and I did share this article. I meet with our bank 2 or 3 times a year, and typically that 2 to 3 times a year, we just had it. Doug was with me, not even last week. And fraud, it takes up about 50% of our conversation. If there are 2 or 3 things that keep me awake at night, it is worrying about funds being taken out of our account. So when you hear the stories of Dublin and Northampton and all these other ones where millions of dollars fly out of a bank account, yeah, that keeps me up at night. We do have safeguards in place with respect to payments. And 2 to 3 times a year, since I've been doing this, we do have safeguards in place, and I get an alert, and my whole team gets an alert. So in case I'm on vacation, Doug will get it, or other people in my office. And that alert means that someone tried to pull funds out of our bank account without our authorization, meaning that they knew our bank number and they knew our routing number. And by the way, if you have electronic banking and you have the front and the back of your check, you'll know what our bank account number is, okay? But the check register and the check numbers are what's important, because there is a term called check washing where people do get the check, they intercept checks in the mail, and then all of a sudden, you're seeing checks written for odd amounts, and we get two or three of these a year. So the notion of transparency is critically important to me. And I mentioned my praise for my friend Dan here. When I first started, I didn't really like that manifest summary. It's a lot of work to produce it. And I come to appreciate it because we list probably 95% of all of the funds that are being sent out every couple of weeks. They're on that particular summary sheet. They're embedded in the school board minutes. So in speaking with Brian, oh my God, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly that I think from our dialogue, we need to do a better job of probably isolating that manifest summary there. But I do have concerns as your business administrator about having a check register. And I can't say that because Bedford does it, that's such a great thing. And so did the town of Northampton do it. And as someone who has to deal with the anxiety of having our financials stolen, and I have to try to balance that. And I personally think, and I think that it's not my opinion. My opinion as the BA is that the manifest summary provides a tremendous amount of transparency as to where we are issuing checks to, but also recognize, as the gentleman said here, there is personally identifiable information. We pay special ed providers. Sometimes we pay parents who transport these students, and we issue them a check. I'm not so sure that they maybe want their names out there. In addition, we would have to scrub some of the memo lines because part of the invoices, believe it or not, sometimes a special ed provider puts the student's name, initials, a certain identifiable information in the memo line or on the invoice, and we'd have to scrub all of that. So I am someone who is huge on transparency, and I think that the manifest summary does accomplish that in great deal. The other thing is that all of this, our admin and our finance team, which is 3 school board members, they get copies of these check registers. They look at them. The rest of the school board does not. And one of the reasons is that PPI type information and trying to, keep it as confidential, as possible. So my great hope is that there's a happy medium here, because I am not personally, as the BA, too keen on the check register piece, regardless of whether Bedford does it or not. But that is not my decision. That's the school board's decision.
Before John Porter asked, could you please tell us what PPI is?
Well, it's personally identifiable information. PII, I'm sorry, it's
PII.
PII, personally identifiable information.
Thank you. John, are you happy? Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Templeton, before you leave, I'm going to ask you to sign, I'm going to accept it now, but sign the amendment that you submitted. Okay, what we're going to do, are there any other questions or comments on the amendment? We're going to vote on whether to approve the amendment. Remember, this article will go on the warrant. We're not voting on the final warrant. All we're going to vote on is what is the language of the article. If this amendment does not pass, the original wording goes on the warrant for voting. If the amendment passes, then the amended wording will go on the warrant for voting in March. So, motions.
Moderator, I
yes.
have a point of order, if I may.
Yes.
There was one important thing. This is advisory also.
Oh, yeah, the board's opinion is that, I will say it for them, that this is an advisory opinion. There's not a directive by the voters That's not unusual that the town can, or this group can take votes that are to advise the board of a position that may not be legally binding because of the statutory constraints. So that's a decision for the board to make, just reporting that to you. Okay, so we will take a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of amending the article with replace this wording signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Then this is the wording in the article as amended. Is there any further discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, yes, ma'am. Come forward. We've made the process of walking to the microphones a little more difficult by having the meeting in the gym, but the theater has a limited capacity, and the concern is we exceed it, so we moved it here. It made you pretend you're in high school again and sit in the bleachers. Yes, ma'am. Give us your name, please.
Kerry McCallum.
Thank you.
If anybody knows how many right-to-know requests have been made to see the checkbook expenses.
Could you repeat that?
How many requests for the right to know?
Okay.
To see the checkbook expenses.
Okay, thank you. Now, if the board wants to.
In the last 2 years, 6.
Thank you. Ma'am, are you coming forward, or you? Okay. Don't go to auctions either then. Okay, anybody else?
And to clarify, the 6 included 2 for Goffstown, 2 for New Boston, 2 for the SAU.
Okay, anybody else coming forward on Article 4? Karen, are you coming up?
Karen Manasky.
Thank you.
I like this warrant article because when I go on the website and I put in the search engine what I need, I can't find it. I can't find things, either the school board or the town. So if I know that there's going to be a register there and I can say check registry and it pops up, that's great. One question I have is how often is the manifest, whatever, how often is that updated?
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, you have a question? Karen, we're going to lump these so we can answer them all at once. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kirsty Hazelbaker. I just wanted to say that if you watch regular school board meetings, Dan Cloutier actually talks about the manifest, I believe, at every school board meeting, and it is available in the minutes every meeting, which is every 2 weeks.
Thank you.
So the manifest is in the minutes, so you just go to the minutes. I just found them in probably 90 seconds, so they are available after the minutes are released for every school board meeting.
Thank you. Dan, we're going to run out of good things to say about you, but we're going to grab as many as we can while you're on board. Yes, sir.
Brian Ipson Johnson, IBSEN-JOHNSON. I just want to say I have a hard time believing if people are having trouble finding the manifest summary on the website that they're going to be able to find the check registry on the site. Quite honestly, I don't see why this is a conversation to be had. If we want to direct the school and the school board to do something, then let's have them clean up the website and make it so that we can find what we're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Kathy St. Pierre. My question is, the language in the amendment, which was just approved, says check register. Could somebody please define exactly, for me, my check register really just says the number of the check, the name it's made out to, and the amount. So could we clarify, please, whether it's whether that's the information being contained on there or if there's more? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Templeton, are you coming forward to say something?
So I do have copies that I got online of what the Bedford one looks like. So if anybody's interested on what information would be on there, you can take a look at it, or you can go to their site and check it out. I also looked at the manifest summary when I did find it, and if you want to A and B those, you'll see that there's big differences. So it's not exactly the same thing. The manifest summary is not exactly the same thing as the check registry. I just want to make sure that you're clear on that.
Scott, do you want to answer the question about what the check register looks like that Kathy St. Pierre asked, just for...
Well, the check register has a lot of different components to it. What Bedford presents is not everything that is on a check register. There are account numbers and budget line numbers, et cetera, that they don't include. They don't include the memo line, which thank goodness they don't. So they have taken some strides to eliminate information that might be personally identifiable. The issue that I have, and you'll note that I spoke to the board about a year or so ago after speaking with our bank about even having an amount of a check is how folks, if they have the check number, the amount of the check is how they are able to like wash these checks. So I started to round up or round down the amount so that it would be less advantageous for a fraudster to try to use or capture that information. Mr. Templeton is absolutely correct. The manifest rolls up all of the payments that were made. So if there were multiple checks or from multiple accounts to a particular vendor, it just gives it as a lump sum. It doesn't list, all. To give you an example, we might make multiple checks to a health insurance provider, but they get rolled up into, on that manifest summary, they would get rolled up to one amount. Does that help, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other questions on the article? It passed, the amendment passed, so this is what it is. Seeing none, I'm going to close the discussion on Article 4. And by statute, the only matters that can be addressed at this meeting are the articles on the warrant. And we now have come to the end of the warrant, so I'm going to say thank you for coming. You were a good audience. It is important event. Wait a minute, don't leave yet. You're going to miss my closing lines. Thank you for the boards for putting this together. Tomorrow night is the town meeting. It's the Rodney Stark Show. Please attend. And remember, you have to vote on March 11th. Lionel, do you have a motion to make?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, motion's been made to adjourn. Is there a second? Dan? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.